everyone, I am Adrian Vanzyl. I am the CEO of Ardent, and I wanted to jump in before Paul tells you a bit about eCommerce and tell you why we think this is the single most exciting company in our portfolio. So, believe it or not, the internet is apparently going to be big. Believe it or not, it's going to be big in Southeast Asia. And believe it or not, but 90% of all the investments happening in the region is all in e-commerce. So e-commerce is a good place to be. To do e-commerce, you need to solve some very basic infrastructure problems. And that is what e-commerce does. I can tell you in the next 5 years, more successful businesses will be built on this platform than you can imagine. So, if you want to work somewhere that is at the absolute cornerstone of everything in e-commerce, this is the place to be. So I'm going to stop with that. We're excited. This is a big opportunity. It is the cornerstone of everything coming. I'm going to get Paul to tell you more.
Hello everybody. Thanks for making it here.
Stand in front of the speaker.
So anyway, hello? Is that okay? Alright, sorry about that. So really thank you everybody for making it here. I'll try to stand over here instead. So really for eCommerce, what Adrian was saying, it's a very exciting time. We're really in the stage of our business where we're looking at the growth stage. We're starting to ramp up very nicely. Last year for us, we basically tripled revenues. So that was very exciting. And now we're really mapping the next stage of the business. But in any internet or technology, so in any internet company, you always have to think about, even when we're doing logistics, we're doing delivery, right? How do we scale, right? And it's really what technology is all about. And the reason why we raise money is
we're startup, sorry.
You can just bring it down, maybe the volume.
That's what I've been doing all the time.
Oh, really? How about, is that okay?
Yeah,
Maybe I could just stand in this corner of the...
I think we should stand on this one.
Yeah.
Alright.
Let me turn on the volume a little bit.
Okay, try again.
Okay, is that all right?
Speak for more than 3 seconds.
Okay, so trying to scale. Look, so in order to scale any business or any internet company, right, it's all about investing into technology. And this is why for us, just mapping out the next phase, it's not about getting more delivery fleet, it's not about building more warehouses, but actually being able to scale with tech. And when we talk about technology, it's not just about warehouse management system, or it's not just about transportation management system. They'll actually go all the way up, and you will see into advertising and content. And a lot of people think that e-commerce is just about setting up a store. And it's not just about setting up a store, it's actually quite a lot of different things, and I'll show you what it is end to end. But before I go into why we're building what we're building, I think what's more exciting is to look at the market trends. And from an entrepreneur, most of you guys probably in this room are going to want to be entrepreneurs in the future, or are looking at working in companies that have that strong entrepreneurship. This is the reason why it's exciting to be in Southeast Asia. And so I want to explain and go into more detail on the market trends, and to give you guys an overview. It's not just Thailand, Indonesia, Philippines, Vietnam, Malaysia, and Singapore. But Thailand and Indonesia, very, very exciting. So when you look at this here, the next game changer, right? Look at the 4 markets in there: Thailand, Indonesia, Vietnam, and the Philippines. And that's till 2025. And that means that it's a really good time to build companies in Southeast Asia. And that growth, that explosion is going to happen, basically in the next 2 to 3 years. But even in the inflection point now, it's happening today. Here you can see the numbers in the market size. Indonesia, the potential in Indonesia just because of the population. But look at Thailand, right? A very strong number 2. And all the investors, trust me, we're pitching every investor at every level, and they're very excited about these 2 main big markets, right? Vietnam, yes, but when you look at just Thailand and Indonesia alone, the potential and the growth is massive. Look at China, and then look at what we call the ASEAN 6, and how big that market potential is. Next. So here you can see that the inflection point of 2015, right? And we actually see that. That's why I was referring to why our revenues tripled last year, as it's now starting to ramp for this year. And it's an exciting time, but even with the market growing, you need to prepare for scale. You need to invest in tech. And I think every company and every startup, even the traditional companies, are going to need to start looking at how do they heavily invest in technology. Next. So just some data to highlight how exciting it is to be in Thailand. Next. E-commerce deal volume. Why e-commerce is hot? When you look at basically India, the number of deals, M&A, companies being acquired, you're looking at China versus India, a lot of investors missed out on China. Right? You look at Alibaba, and look at all the big deals now, too late. Right? All of them are owned by really the big VCs and the local investors. So now everyone's just going after India. And next is actually Southeast Asia. And trust me, the number of investors coming into our markets and the guys that are talking, we're talking to as well, it's all about investing in SEA. And they want to get in early, right? But at the same time, they're a bit picky now because the market is fairly mature. They know e-commerce models. They know what model works in the US, what model works in China, what model works in India, and they're going to look at exactly that in Southeast Asia. So this is the type of e-commerce deals, whether it's apparel, accessories, marketplace, travel. The great thing about our business model is we support all of these plays, right? So every one of our clients, whether it's a small retailer, a brand coming in from Europe, or basically a marketplace that needs our e-commerce support and infrastructure support, like that is our business model. And to imagine to be able to support all these type of companies, it's a great problem for us to solve. And every day we're challenged because the way you're doing e-commerce for basically apparel or let's just say beauty products, you need refrigeration, you need different types of delivery. So this is really exciting that each type of these models here, we're going to adapt our model and be able to support these complicated e-commerce models. And there are more and more to come. The companies like Line, for example, and mobile commerce, that for us was a huge opportunity to really understand how mobile and commerce works. And then now we're looking at how to basically apply that to all our other partnerships, our other partners. So the disruption of technology, just to give you an idea of how we see the world next. The top 5 companies around the world, right? Imagine 3 now in technology, right? And that's just going to be more and more and more. Meaning the top 50, you're going to start to see just technology companies going up. And how many billion-dollar startups now? It's like becoming a dime a dozen. Where let's just say even a year ago, you could actually say there's only about 20. Now there's like over 50 plus. Next. This was the real, I would say the trigger of when companies, investors started looking at e-commerce. When they saw this IPO, that really is what triggered this huge wave. E-commerce in Thailand, the size of the e-commerce market. So when we look at the internet, what's so exciting, right, is that there's no moment in history where you can actually reach 1.2 billion people with an app, that potential, right? Imagine that. Right? So when we look at e-commerce, it's the monetization of the internet, right? And when you see what the internet is doing, we see it as very disruptive, like basically electricity, and I'll show you more examples. So we look at it as how it's changing communication. For example, Line with 36 million, and even AIS with just 45 million. I mean, how disruptive is that alone just for telecom companies? Next, transportation. Next, travel, media, marketing, religion. And a lot of you guys may not know this, but the Indonesia election, the race was actually pretty close, but the ballot counting was crowdsourced in Indonesia. So within 3 days, basically tens of thousands of Indonesians counted the ballots because they were so worried that the government was going to, basically trigger or cheat. So the ballot counting came out even before the actual, the companies that they hired to count the ballots, and that was amazing, right? And that just shows you, the impact of the internet and just even government alone. And this is going to be making a lot more changes in the future as well. Next. So when we look at e-commerce, which industries do we want to really change, right? And we think that retail is going to be one massive, and a lot of people thinking just B2C, but we're looking at B2B. For example, I'll just give you an example, a client like HP, right? Where they're now launching B2C, B2B, and B2E, which is to employees. So imagine being able to manage an e-commerce site and target all the different types of industries, right? So it's massive. Next, fulfillment. And just the way they do B2C fulfillment is so different from B2B B2B fulfillment. And even this and all the technology that goes into basically warehouse management system is huge opportunity. And when you look at the industry in the US and other markets, there's very, very few players here. So even from a technology perspective, software, just for WMS, it's a massive opportunity. Delivery as well, as you can see, there's Ninja Van, GoGo Van, Uber Logistics. So that even from a delivery perspective is going to get very disruptive as well. Next, and payments. So for us, we're doing COD, and that's 70% of the market, right? And when you look at the credit card penetration is so low, it's still in the low 10%. Where in Indonesia, for example, it's like 5%. So in order for you to really push e-commerce, you have to have COD to be successful. And that's basically called, COD means collection on delivery. So it's not just cash, but also credit card. So the opportunity, when you look at this, right, this is the commerce landscape. So when you look at a mature market like the US and Europe, these are all the companies that can be built, right, in Southeast Asia, by country. Right? Some of us are just doing one of these, for example, e-commerce implementation, e-commerce platform. But you can see how big the landscape is, how big the opportunity is. And for us, we're just covering a small piece. But at the same time, when you look at everything upstream and downstream, it's not just from, let's just say, the e-commerce component, but even also from the media and the advertising. And I will show you more of that later. Here, this is how we look at the e-commerce monetization funnel, right? When you look at media, you look at marketing and advertising, and you look at commerce, right? These are businesses we built in the past, and the biggest challenges for driving e-commerce really was the bottom piece. And a lot of people go, why would you build out e-commerce? Like, why would you build out logistics and delivery? And that was because it was actually broken. So for us to solve, if we solve the logistics problem, we're going to solve the e-commerce problem and lift e-commerce from 1% to basically 10%, like our Asian neighbors. But when you basically change the e-commerce landscape, the marketing landscape is also going to change. In China, for example, 40% of online advertising comes from e-commerce. So you can't just look at logistics. You're going to look at e-commerce, you're going to look at advertising, and now content marketing going all the way upstream to media. When you look at Alibaba, when you look at Amazon, you look at all the big players, like even Google and Facebook, they were all up top, and they're all coming down. Google Express is launching shopping, and whether you're Amazon down here with e-commerce and fulfillment, they're also going upstream. So the landscape is evolving rapidly, but it's an exciting space to actually be in, because when we are building an e-commerce company, we've got to start to consider this full tech stack. So you're not just thinking commerce and fulfillment. You've got to look all the way upstream. So these are the real three, we're building the core platforms, right? So the three, channel management, fulfillment management, and delivery. And so when you look at demand generation, really like how do you drive sales, you have to have that ingrained in your business model. And then basically how do you fulfill on that? Next. So when you look at this, how do we start to take all the platforms out there, like marketplaces, retail channels, and basically help drive conversion and sales into this, right? And after you drive the sales, next, you have to fulfill it. You have to have fulfillment centers. You have to have pick and pack. This is really summarizing and dumbing it down to show you guys how we look at these three levels. And fulfillment is key because somebody has to pack that and deliver those orders. Next. And then delivery, right? And basically not managing multiple 3PL providers, right? So these are the real three key tech stacks that we're building out in our business. And this is how we're looking for talent to help us build these platforms that basically the big companies, whether Facebook is coming in and they're going to start to launch e-commerce, they are not going to build logistics and fulfillment, and we want to plug into them. For every Facebook fan page, eventually starts to become a storefront. Every line, like brand, is going to start to want to do e-commerce on the line platform, and they're going to need integration, right? So these are technologies that we want to build all the way from the top to bottom. Next. When you look at this is basically now the complexities of what e-commerce is about, right? When you look at all the different e-commerce properties, it's incredibly intimidating. Next. So what happens is channel management, when you look at basically e-commerce, a lot of people think that it's just Google that's grabbing the share. Imagine, why is Google shooting bricks? Right? Why is Google worried? Because that's the only piece they're getting at the moment. Well, that and some of the mobiles. But look at all the other parts of where most of the e-commerce traffic is coming from. So advertising is only one click away from commerce, right? So when you're an advertising company, you have to look at e-commerce. When you're an e-commerce company, you also have to look at advertising. And when you start to see how advertising is shifting, whether Amazon is now being the top product search, that's going to worry the shit out of Google, right? And so this is why Google is going all the way down to delivery, and then vice versa. So when you look at all these opportunities for e-commerce, the landscape is changing by the quarter, right? Of all these new channels. Imagine Line and how powerful Line can become for e-commerce. And we love that because from our perspective, the more channels there are, the more benefits it is for our clients to be able to create multiple channels for sales. So this is the last slide, and I just want to end that, for our goal is we look at every media, we look at every form of advertising. And the way we look at everything is, whether it's a billboard with your mobile phone, how do we basically convert that into sales, right? You see an ad, you pick up your phone, you can buy that on the spot, you can buy that on the fly. And our goal is to also be able to deliver next day, and basically end to end. So really our vision is looking at how do we enable commerce on any different media, basically anywhere, anytime, any place, right? So thank you again, and I really hope that you guys see the mission that we're trying to solve, and there's a lot of pieces in this ecosystem that we need to build, and we'd love to really hire good talent. Thank you.